episode 11 of the Woldenburn Sewing and Knitting Podcast. Happy New Year! It is now January 3rd, so it is we're into 2022. I hope that you all had a perfectly splendid Christmas holiday, and if you don't celebrate Christmas, you just had a really good December. I hope that you had a wonderful New Year's Eve or New Year's Day celebration. I ended up feeling kind of under the weather right around Christmas, and I was really hoping to get another podcast episode up in December, but it just kind of got a little bit crazy and busy and all over the place like Decembers do. And it just didn't happen. I also was planning to do a lot more knitting and sewing than I actually ended up being able to do, so I don't have a ton of progress, but I have been able to get a few things done, which I'm pretty pleased about. So I do have some sewing, I do have some knitting to share, and then I also have some projects that I am hoping to get cast on or started here in the next, some of them today, some of them in the next couple of days. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it. Let's start with knitting. I don't have any finished objects. I can't remember the last time I filmed if I had already finished, pull it out here, this first sock that I'm making. It is a plain vanilla sock knit on US size 1 or 2.25 millimeter double pointed needles, and I'm knitting this out of the, it's looking a little sad now, Regia 4-ply. This is what the yarn looks like. I think it's quite beautiful. And I have finished the first sock in the pair, and I am well on my way to finishing the second sock. I am past the heel, and I have just finished doing the gusset decreases, so now all that's left is to just knit straight until it's the toe, and then I'll have a finished pair of socks. So I haven't gotten quite as much progress done on these as I wanted to. I was kind of hoping to have the pair completed by this podcast episode, but it didn't happen. And I was also planning to cast on my Robin West Yorkshire Spinners Robin socks, and that didn't happen. But it's okay. You know, life sometimes doesn't agree with our knitting plans. So that's really the only partially finished object that I have. Let me get this next one here. Actually, I had to run and get my water bottle. Forgot to bring it in here with me. So the next project I wanted to show you is my Gile, it's Gil, I think. I looked it up and it's Gil. The Gil sweater, which is a pattern designed by Claire Walls of Flossy Knits. And I was very close to being done. I can't remember if I had already completed both the sleeves or not, but I have. And then all that is left is the neckband. And it's been at this stage for a few weeks now. I kind of hit a brick wall, so to speak, just because I realized that this cable is too short to do the neckband. It's not quite short enough to do it in the round, and it's too short to do magic loop, so I have to, thankfully these are interchangeable needles, so I just have to change the cable. And I don't know about you, but sometimes there's like weird little things like that that you need to do to make progress on a project, and for whatever reason it just seems to like kill all the mojo to get it done. So that's literally all that needs to be done in this. I've already woven in like all of the ends, I think, or at least most of the way. You know, those are all woven in. And so literally all that is left is to finish this neckband and then to block it, and I will have this beautiful, beautiful sweater. And I want this sweater. Let's put it that way. I want it. I need to get it done. So I'm hoping to today, I feel like that's a pretty easy thing to do. Today I'm hoping to make myself just sit down and take the 2 minutes that it will take to switch out the cable so that I can get this done. Because it really only needs like an inch or something, and it'll be done. So there's that, and I am knitting this out of a hand-dyed yarn on a superwash merino nylon blend. So yeah, I love moss stitch. I love the texture of it. I think it is beautiful, and I so enjoyed making this, like every bit of it. I loved. Like, I'd been wanting to make this pattern for so long, and this is exactly how I had envisioned it turning out, and it just turned out perfectly. Which doesn't always happen. If you're a crafty, creative person, you know that. Sometimes you have this clear vision in your head of what something's supposed to look like, and it doesn't cooperate. Those are the only two real projects that I am actively working on. I think I have one other pair of socks. Oh, I just remembered. I do actually have some finished knitting objects. I believe last time I shared the brown socks that I had knit from Micah for a Christmas present, and I intended to knit him a couple other pairs of socks, but that again didn't happen, which I'm not too worried about because I live with him, so I can make him at any point. But the other thing that I did is I knit a shawl for Micah's grandmother for Christmas, and she loved it. It was so nice. I knit it out of a Lion Brand Heartland yarn in the color Olympic. And I don't have any of that with me because I gifted the shawl and the yarns in the other room, the leftovers. But it turned out so well. I ended up using the Highland something shawl. I'll put it on the screen, which is a pattern by Knitting Expat Designs or Mina Phillips. And I was originally going to just make up my own pattern, just kind of fudge it and make a triangular shawl. But then I was doing a little bit of looking, and I wasn't loving how the shawl was coming out, the progress that I made on it. It just looked a little bit funny. I ended up accidentally finding out that Mina Phillips had this shawl pattern, which is this beautiful crescent shaped shawl. It wasn't very big. It had some lovely lace detailing on the end. It wasn't very complicated. It's mostly garter stitch. The pattern was designed to be knit striped with 2 or 3 different colors in there, and I just knit it in one color. And the really cool thing is that she had a bundle pack so that you could get the pattern for the fingering weight version of the shawl and the worsted weight version of the shawl. So I got the bundle pack. She was having a sale, and so I got both of those, and so I knit it up, and it was really fun to knit. It was super simple, and it turned out beautifully, and Micah's grandmother loved it. I might pop a picture up in here. I need to check and make sure that it's okay to put a picture in here because I have a picture of her wearing it, and she loved it. So that was a lot of fun. She was just like, oh my goodness, it's perfect, because she's 92, so she's older, and so she gets very cold. And so I was thinking in my head, I was like, this would be perfect for her to just like wrap around her shoulders and whatnot, because I was thinking about doing a blanket. And then I was like, I don't know, I feel like a blanket, you can put it over your lap and whatnot, but as a grandmother, I feel like she's probably going to have a lot of blankets, and sometimes it's really nice to just have something to go over your shoulders. Like, I have a stack of shawls, my fingers aren't pointing right, over there, that I use to just wrap around my shoulders sometimes when I'm a little bit chilly, so I really do enjoy having shawls around. But anyway, so I do actually have some finished objects. I completely forgot that I had spent a decent amount of my knitting time working on that shawl. So then the next thing that I wanted to talk about with knitting was I have a couple of projects that I'm hoping to cast on either today or sometime in the next couple of days. And the first one we'll talk about, I'm going to be knitting out of this yarn. This is a leftover ball of yarn. I actually had used this yarn to knit the Versailles pullover, and this is it. I didn't love how it came out. The pattern said in it that it was designed for anywhere from DK weight to Aran weight yarn, and so I was like, okay, perfect. I have DK weight yarn. This will be great. I don't love the gauge. It's very see-through, and I much prefer my hand knit sweaters. Oops, throwing things on the floor. I don't like them to be super open and breezy and stuff, so like I like a tighter gauge where it's not going to be see-through. You're not going to see any sort of undershirt that I'm wearing underneath of it. So I finished this a while ago, and it just doesn't fit quite right. And I think that it's just because the pattern really needed to be made in a chunkier yarn. Like, I think it's a really lovely pattern. It's got these really interesting like shoulder detailing. It's got the option to do a turtleneck or a mock neck. I think it's a really lovely, basic, wearable design, and I would be interested in re-knitting it, but I think it just needs an appropriate weight of yarn, and I don't think this was it. So, like I said, I haven't worn it. I intentionally did not weave in any of the ends because I finished it and was just like, I don't love this project. So, I'm going to be taking this yarn, I'm going to frog this pattern, frog this sweater. I'm going to be taking this yarn and making a Corbell sweater by Claire Walls of Flossy Knits. And the Corbell sweater is actually a sweater that I test knit for Claire, oh goodness, probably like 3 years ago now. And I made a beautiful burgundy colored version of it, and I really liked how the sweater came out. However, I didn't love the neckline. It was very wide and open, and I prefer my sweaters to be more crew neck, I guess. And so I didn't love that part about it, and it was a little bit baggier and more oversized than I liked. I really liked the detailing of it and the construction of it. The front and back are knit in pieces, and then you seam them up and then you knit the sleeves, and I really enjoyed making it. It was the first time I learned how to do cables without a cable needle, which was such a fun thing to learn, and like since then I have not used cable needles for a cable. Like for my gill sweater, I didn't use a cable needle at all, and I really enjoyed it. But so there were a couple of things that I would have loved to tweak about it. I also ended up donating that sweater because I made it at a time in my life which has a lot of bad memories and bad associations with it. And so it was just a really rough time for me personally. And I have made it a point to very much be intentional about trying to get rid of any of those things that kind of had those bad connotations with them, bad memories associated with them, or anything like that. So I ended up donating it, and it took me a long time to get to the place to be able to do that because I really did love it. Like, I thought it was such a lovely sweater, and it's a very well designed pattern. Like, I really like it. So I'm very much looking forward to re-knitting it, and I think it's going to be perfect out of this yarn because it'll just be a lovely textured cabled design, and it'll look beautiful in this blue-gray yarn. So I'm hoping to get that cast on today, actually. Like, I would really love to get that started because I've been thinking about making another one for quite some time, and I just haven't done it. And I had the realization just a few days ago. I was like, oh, that's what I can use this yarn for. So hopefully by the next time I film a podcast, I'll have some progress on that. And then the next project is another sweater that I would like to reknit. And it's another test knit that was made at the same time of life that I ended up donating the sweater. And I'm going to be using these 3 cakes of yarn, which I love. Like, they're so beautiful. It's actually going to be in this way. It's kind of going to be a fade. It is the Lofoten sweater by Emily of the Blue Mouse Knits. And again, this is a pattern that I test knit for her. It was, I believe, her first sweater pattern that she released. And she's done a bunch of shawls, and I actually have test knit several patterns for her. I really do love her designs. And so I was able to test knit that, and I really like that sweater. Like, the colors and everything, like, it was so interesting. It has a subtle texture to it, and it's got a bit of a fade, which I really, really like because I have a lot of odds and ends sort of skeins in my yarn stash that are left over from my hand-dyed yarn. Like, this is all my hand-dyed yarn. And so it's really hard to, like, know what to do with them because I don't need, like, 20 different shawls. And I don't want to use some of these just for socks because I love socks. I love hand knit socks, and I will continue to make hand knit socks. However, I kind of want something to be able to just wear and love. So I am going to be making another Lofoten sweater. And I'm also really excited because this is a slightly different fingering weight base from the one that I knit my original Lofoten in, and I think this would be a bit better. And I'm also a little bit more experienced in garment knitting, so I think it's just gonna all around turn out nicer. So I'm quite looking forward to that. I think it'll be really nice, and that's another one that I just wound all of this up this morning, so I'm really hoping to get that cast on sooner rather than later. But yeah, all of that to say that if there is something that you own, a sweater or something that you've made that just kind of has bad memories associated with it, it's okay to donate it. It's okay to give it away and to just give it to somebody else, and they can make happy memories with it because they won't have any of the negative associations that you have with it. And so it's better to just pass that on, and with your well wishes and love, pleasant thoughts for somebody else to own and love. So that is something that I've kind of had to learn over the years, that you don't have to keep everything that you make. You can get rid of it, and it's okay. You can instead replace it with something that you are going to love and cherish and really value and enjoy having in your wardrobe or in your life. I actually do have one more yarn project, and I just started this one. For my birthday, my wonderful and amazing mother-in-law ended up getting me a $50 gift card to Joann's, which was lovely of her. It is always fun to have free money that you can't spend anywhere else. Like, you have to spend it on crafty things. It's very easy for me to talk myself out of buying things for myself that are crafty sort of related, especially since I am working on trying to reduce the amount of fabric and yarn that I just have sitting around. So it's a little bit of a treat to have a gift card to a craft store where you have to buy yourself stuff. So I ended up getting 5 balls of the Bernay blanket yarn, and this is like a super chunky, thick sort of a yarn. And it's really squishy and really cozy, and I am working on crocheting a very simple single crochet blanket with it because I love making blankets. And of the blankets that I've made, like this is a blanket I made from the Lion brand Heartland yarn, and I knitted this one, and it's all garter stitch, and it's like the perfect size. It's so squishy and so soft and so lovely, and both Micah and I absolutely love this blanket. So when I was trying to think about what to buy, I was like, I don't need any fabric right now. I have plenty of fabric that I need to use up, and I don't really need any more like sweater or sock style yarn, garment style yarns, because not only do I have quite a bit of yarn already in my stash, I have packages of undyed yarn. I have a lot of yarn that is just waiting for me to be ready for my next sweater project and to dye up yarn for it. So I have plenty of yarn. So I decided I'm gonna make another blanket, because I love having projects like this where they're so simple and so easy and there's nothing to it. You can just sit there and you can watch something or listen to something and just work on it, and it's so mindless, and I love that. I love having something like this alongside of a more complicated sweater or shawl or sock project. So I haven't gotten very far, but that's okay because I just started it the other night, and I'm really excited about it. I love this color. It's just like a sagey, the color is smoky green, I think, and that's exactly what it looks like. It's just, which I did also realize when I pulled all of this stuff together, that I think green is starting to make a, I don't know what you want to call it, conquest of my wardrobe. It's typically blue. Blue is like my go-to color, but I feel like green is kind of making its way in there because one of the sewing projects that I'm going to show you is also green. So I've got my ghost sweater, I've got this blanket, and this dress. So I'm very excited about this blanket. It's not going to be done anytime like imminently, so you will probably see it on the next few episodes, but I just love having things like this alongside my other projects to just chug along with, and yeah. So that's the last yarny project for you, and then let's talk about some sewing. Alrighty, so first off, I have a finished object to show you. Last podcast episode, I was wearing my recently completed modified joni dress, which is a dress pattern in the Stretch. That's the book's name. Such an easy one. The Stretch book by Tilly and the Buttons, and I pretty much immediately whipped up another version. This one is made out of a very inexpensive, cheap fabric from Walmart that I got, and Walmart is just kind of like a big box store in the United States, and it's got home goods, it's got food, I think the idea is for it to be kind of your one-stop shop because it has a little bit of everything. It even has a little fabric and like yarn and creative stuff section. And I bought a couple pieces of fabric. These were like pre-cut pieces, so they were super cheap. It was like $4 or maybe $8 for like 4 yards or something like that. It's not the highest quality fabric, but I fell in love with the print. I love this print so much. The knot did not turn out quite so well on this one as it did on my other version. I think part of that is that I need to go back in, and you can see that I can stick my finger in here. There's a gap here. There you go. You can see it from front. There's my finger. I need to go back in and just stitch that hole a little tighter. You can kind of see where my stitching stops here, and I just need to stitch it up there. And I think that that'll help a lot with it because it seems to like fiddle around, and the raw side tends to show a little bit more than on my other dress, which is funny because I did the exact same thing on this one. So I think it's just a difference in fabric. But I love how this came out. Once I fix that little bit, it'll be fine. And again, I made it a long, not maxi, I think it's more of a midi version. I have realized I figured out the sweet spot for dresses and skirts for me. I don't like things that are like at my knee or a little bit above because I'm always worried about skirts blowing up in the wind and all that. Like, I'm just a modest person by nature, and I just don't want to have to worry about that. But then I also don't like full length maxi things because it frustrates me so much when I'm trying to walk up the stairs, and if I have stuff in both of my hands, I will trip up. So I've discovered that the best length is probably about mid-calf or just above my ankles. So midi length. And that's what I did. Again, I added the long sleeves that I just kind of modified. The pattern comes with the option to do, I think, a flutter sleeve or just a short little cap sleeve. But especially since it's cold outside and wintry, like it snowed last night. Not like a proper snow, because you can still see the ground through the snow, but like it's snowy and beautiful outside. And so it's cold. And I need more long sleeved things in my wardrobe. So that's why I did these. And then I finished them off with a cuff, which is one of my all-time favorite finishes for sleeves on stretchy fabric garments because it's so clean. And a lot of times I have issues with when it's like a fold and turn sort of a thing. Like these necklines have actually turned out really well. I've been quite impressed with that. Normally I am not very good at it, but they turned out quite well, quite neat and flat. But normally I have a lot of issues with making that sort of a hem for jersey fabric clothing and not having it be ripply and weird, which is why, and this is a life hack for you, I didn't hem it. And I didn't hem the other one either. I just serged the bottom edge because jersey fabric won't fray. That's one of the benefits of it. You don't necessarily have to finish all the edges. But one of the things that I tend to like to do is I'll just run a line of serging. You can't really see it there, but when I flip it over, you can sort of see it. There we go. It just kind of finishes it off, and it's pretty much invisible. Like you can't see it because I use the black thread on my serger. You pretty much can't see it, but it just kind of gives it a little bit of a finish. So, and again, I do that because I hate trying to faff around with it and make sure it doesn't go wavy. So there's that finished object. And technically I did have another finished object. I believe I talked about it in one of my other podcast episodes. I was working on making, gotta readjust, My feet are going to sleep. I was working on making another Jennifer Lauren handmade Felicity dress out of a watermelon print fabric. And I did. I finished that. Like, I got on a sewing kick a little bit. And I finished it. But I don't know what I did. Every other Felicity dress that I have made so far has fit beautifully. Like, perfectly. I still wear the ones that I have all the time. I love that pattern. I'm plotting to make another version of it. Slightly modified to change things up a little bit, but I love that pattern. It's so basic, it's so simple, it's like the perfect everyday sort of a dress, which I just love. But somehow, and I'm not 100% sure how, like I said, I don't know what happened, it ended up too tight. And I used the exact same pattern, the exact same way that I've done everything, and it just didn't fit quite right. And I was a little disappointed. Not too much though. It was kind of funny because I got done with it and I tried it on and I was like, yeah, I can't wear this. It was a bit funny up here in this part, which I've never had an issue with before, and the waist was a little bit weird. And I was just like, what is going on? Because I have dresses, like Felicity dresses, that are made the exact same way and they fit fine. Like, I don't know what I did. I don't know if I accidentally did too much of a seam allowance or something. I'm not sure. But I was completely done with it. It was beautifully done. It was hemmed, zipper, everything. I'd added a cute little ruffle on the sleeves. Like, it was beautiful. And I tried it on and it did not fit. And I was like, well, fudge. I'm not going to go through here and try and redo this and make it fit. It's not happening. That is just going to get donated. Which is fine. It's okay. I just realized I was almost, even though it was kind of a fail, I was so happy to get that fabric out of my stash that I was just like, it's fine. It'll go to somebody else. It'll fit them. It'll be perfect. Like, it'll be a good day. So I technically have 2 finished objects. And then not only that, I got a lot of work done on the gray simplicity dress jumper dress, pinafore dress that I've been working on. That one is also turning into a bit of a fail. So I'm like, come on! I had 2 splendid, beautiful successes with the joni dresses, and then I got all pumped up on a high and was like, I'm gonna do all this sewing, and they're both kind of turning into fails, which is fine. The simplicity dress that I've been working on, it's pretty much done except for a zipper and a hem, like, and it just doesn't fit right. It looks wonky, and I think part of it is that style of dress just might not be my style, which is fine. That's okay. I can come to terms with that. It's so annoying because I underlined the skirt and it's so beautiful. I was making out of this flannel fabric, and so it's like structured and it looks so good, like tailored and everything. And I love it. It looked so good, and then I tried it on and I was like, well, bummer. So that one is probably also going to get donated. It's kind of sitting in the timeout pile because I might try and rescue it and turn it just into a skirt and see if that works, but I'm not worrying about that right now. So those are the sewing projects that I have worked on, and then I was going to try and make myself a Christmas dress, but then I cut it out like right before Christmas, and then I ended up not feeling great over Christmas, and so it didn't happen, which is fine. So I am using another one of the flannel shirtings in my stash that I've had. And this is the other green project I told you about. And I am going to be making the Jennifer Lauren handmade Asteria dress. I believe that's right. Out of this flannel. And I think it's going to be so comfy. It's supposed to be a little bit of an oversized dress. So it'll be a little bit looser around the waist, and it has ties so that you can like nip it in, which is great because I feel like I tend to fluctuate a decent amount right in my torso. And so at different times of the month, dresses that I have that are like super snug suddenly feel really, really uncomfortable and just do not fit. So I'm really curious to see how this is gonna look, because it has this beautiful, this is the front bodice, it has this beautiful square neckline, and then it buttons down the front just to the waist, which I think is a lovely detail. And then I was trying to lengthen the skirt pattern that came with the Asteria dress, and I didn't quite have enough fabric for that, so I just ended up, I'm just going to do a basic gathered skirt, which is fine. But these are all my pieces. They're all cut out. They're good to go. I might start working on it a little bit today, but we'll see. I'm not going to push myself too much. I'm really excited for that one. And again, I'm planning to do a nice long sleeve on that one with, I'm just going to try and do an elastic band at the wrist. So I think that'll look really, really pretty. And then the last sewing project that I am hoping to get started on here soon is going to be made out of this, which is another inexpensive Walmart fabric. And one of the things that I really appreciate about Walmart fabrics, they're usually about $4 or $5 a yard. And so I can get like 4 yards of fabric for about $20. And it is a really good way to try out a pattern without having to basically break the bank. And right now, especially since I am no longer working a regular job, I don't have the standard income that I did before. We're just living off of Micah's income, and then I have a kind of part-time job. And so I don't have a lot of extra money in my budget to just splurge on craft supplies. So I wanted to try and make the Deer and Doe Misotis dress, which is a pattern that came out, was it last year or the year before? I think it might have been the year before. And everybody fell in love with it. And I was a little bit hesitant about it, and because it looked like it's just a little bit too oversized and a little bit too short, and I kind of gone back and forth. Like, I kind of wanted to try it, and I kind of didn't. I wasn't sure. And then they had their Black Friday sale, so I was like, fine. So I went ahead and bought it because I was watching Dana of Tales from Cuckoo Land, and she was wearing her Misotis dress in one of her vlogs, and it was so cute. It was like so pretty. She had made it out of this beautiful yellow linen fabric, and I loved it. I was like, okay, this is the one that's kind of tipping the balance. So that's why I got inexpensive fabric. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to stitch it up. And if I love it, I do have some other fabric in my stash that I can make more versions of it. So we're going to see how that goes. I'm probably going to try and finish my Asteria dress first, and then possibly see about cutting this one out. It's definitely a summery dress slash fabric, but that's okay. I don't mind getting it done ahead of time and having it all ready to go when the weather gets hot, because Tennessee usually ends up getting quite warm quite quickly. So those are those sewing projects. And then I have one more little thing, which I was actually hoping to get this done to turn into a Christmas tree ornament to hang on my Christmas tree, but again, that didn't happen. So I am making a little felt robin, and this is from the free pattern, which you can download off of the Down East Thunder blog, I believe. I'll link it down below. The lady that runs it, I don't know her name off the top of my head. She has so many adorable little felt birds and felt animals, and there's just these sweet little patterns that are all free, and you can just cut them out of felt, and then you just kind of stitch them all together. And then here's the other side. I did a little oops, which you can see here. I didn't make sure that the two wings were perfectly matched up, so I might try and like fudge it a little bit. But it's okay if I can't. I'll just kind of sew around it. But then I'm gonna basically, the holdup was I was trying to go back and forth between trying to do a French knot for the eyes, or to cut out a teeny tiny little piece of black felt and use that for the eyes. But I just really was not loving the idea of that. So when I was at Joann's the other day, I grabbed some little seed beads, and these are exactly what I wanted, because I'm planning to make a number of different little felt animals. And I mean, honestly, at this point, I can just kind of hang them up around the house because they're wintry or, you know, year-roundy. And then I'll tuck them into my Christmas decorations box and put them on the tree next year. And I love it. It's so cute. I have always loved English robins. I think that they are just adorable in a different way than American robins, because I think American robins are also pretty cute. But, and I've been wanting to make this one for a while. I actually found out about this blog lady from my younger brother. He really got into making little felt animals Christmas of 2020. It was around that time period, and so I have a picture on Christmas Day of 2020. He and I were sitting there like working on making a little project. I made a little felt otter, and he was working on something else. And so that was so much fun, and that was how I found out about it. And so I kept thinking about it. I have like a stack of felt sheets that I bought because I wanted to make a bunch of them. I just haven't gotten around to it, and it's been like over a year. So I'm hoping to make a few of these over the next bit because they're so simple and easy and lovely to just sit down, just work on it. They're a little bit fiddly because you have to cut out like teeny tiny, like the beak. That is a teeny tiny little piece to try and cut out. But it's worth it because it looks so good. But now that I have the seed beads, I can get this done. I think that's all. I think that's all that I've got to work on, which is a decent amount. I'm going to be busy. Yeah, I think that's about it. Oh, I just realized you can almost see my calendar that I just hung up over on the wall over there. I just hung it up earlier today. I'm so excited. I've had it for like 3 months now. It's the Astrid Shekel calendar. Her artwork is so beautiful. I'll film a close-up for you and put it up here of January. I love it so much. I bought the calendar, and when it got here, I realized how much I loved it, and I realized how much my mother would love it, so I bought it for her. I had it shipped to her house, and I was like, this is an early Christmas present for you because you're gonna love this just as much as I do. And she did, and my younger sister did too, so that was good job me. Anyway, that's all I have to talk about. I kind of want to just go sit and relax for a little bit and work on probably my blanket just for a few minutes. And then, yeah, well, I've got to clean up first and then sit and relax for a little bit. So I'm going to go and do that. I hope that you all have a wonderful start to your January, and that you have just a beautiful day today, and that you keep crafting and making, and that you have all sorts of plans for the things that you want to make this year. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me today, and I'm really, really looking forward to getting to chat with you next time. Bye!